I support those who are keen to ensure that everyone understands that Black Lives Matter. But also, I'm extremely worried about protests planned for this weekend in central London. And so I'm asking anybody who's thinking about protesting in central London not to do so, and to find other ways to make your views heard. And I'm particularly concerned for four reasons. One is because it, frankly speaking, is almost impossible to keep your social distance with the numbers of people we've seen protesting over the last week or so. And we've had now confirmed cases around the world, from the US to Australia, where people on protests have caught the virus. But the other three reasons why I'm asking people not to come to central London to protest, who care passionately about Black Lives Matter, is because we know that the extreme far right are planning counter protests, and they're people who want to sow division and hatred. And what I don't want in central London is for there to be violence, vandalism or disorder. And the best thing that those of us who care passionately about Black Lives Matter can do is to stay at home and find other ways to protest about this really important issue.
How much sway do you think you hold? I mean, I don't know if you can answer this question honestly, but how likely do you really think it is that people will heed your warning?
Well, I'm imploring on them to. I appreciate that, it may not have cut through with some people who want to protest in any event, but I want you to ask yourself the question how you would feel if you returned home from the protest with the virus and gave it to an older relation. Ask yourself how you would feel if the extreme far right got all the attention because of the violence and vandalism and damage that could ensue, and the disorder, which diverted attention away from the really important issue that you're campaigning about, which is to raise awareness of the racism, the discrimination and the inequality Black people still face in this country and around the world. And ask yourself, is it worth the risk this weekend? And so I'm asking, those who may have more influence than me to understand why I'm saying this, and people who know me, both when I was younger, but also when I've been a lawyer, a member of parliament and a mayor, will know that I'm not somebody who says these things lightly. I think protest is an integral part of living in a democracy, but actually we're in the midst of a global pandemic, and we now know the extreme far right will be having counter protests. And for those reasons, I'm asking people to please, please, please stay at home.
How do you categorise the extreme far right? Because it wouldn't be fair to use those words to describe somebody who is concerned about possible damage being done to a statue of, for example, Winston Churchill.
Well, we now know, not just the police, but anybody can do some basic research, that some of the extreme far right are using language of protecting statues, but really it's about them being there to, get involved in violence and disorder. And some of the language used over the last 24 hours by the extreme far right, you and I both know the characters we're talking about are one where they're talking about protecting statues, but they're also talking about taking on Black Lives Matter. And I'm really keen to avoid either, criminal damage, statues being damaged, graffiti, but also the violence and disorder. And my other point is this, our police officers work so hard. They work so hard. They're, under-resourced and overstretched. In the last couple of weeks, more than 60 have been injured. And I'm really keen also not to have them either taking a risk with their personal safety in terms of them being at the receiving end of violence, but also I don't want them to catch the virus either.